Hey everyone, thank you for watching. Today's video I'm excited to do. It is going to be the second one in a new series that I've started on my channel, and this is called The Inspired Squad. So if you missed the first video, I will link it down below, and I go into a little bit more depth in the beginning there of my plan for this series. But to try to put it in Cliff's Notes here, this is kind of like a podcast style video, but here on YouTube. And what I did for the first video was had my members write in anything that they wanted to share. These videos are really focused on community, and I'm just kind of giving us a place where we can talk about any issues. This video and this series is really centered around women because I've just always been such an advocate for other women, supporting other women, building a community around other women, and I wanted this to be a place where we could talk about whatever it is that we want to talk about. In the last video, people talked about relationships, they talked about birth control, they talked about mental health medications, they talked about leaving relationships. This is really a place where I wanted us to be able to talk about whatever it is that we wanted to share. But one thing that I said in that initial video is that I do realize that not everyone feels comfortable sharing comments on YouTube because it is a public space. So what I've done is created a Google form. So if there's anything that you want to submit for this video, a topic that you want to bring up, you can do it anonymously in that Google form. Not even I know who is submitting to that Google form. And then also, if you hear anything being brought up in this video and you do want to leave a comment but you don't feel comfortable leaving a comment publicly, you can also leave a comment in the Google form. And for today's video, for the first half, I'm going to read some of the comments that came in from last week and go over those. And then I am going to touch on a few new topics and read in what viewers submitted. So again, if you want to, I was so pleased to see in the first video that so many people were leaving comments. I thought that was so wonderful, but we still did have quite a few come in through the anonymous Google form as well. So I just wanted to go over those and then start to bring up these new topics that people wanted to cover. So again, just kind of a podcast style video and not necessarily like an Ask Sam or anything like that. Again, I'm just kind of here reading the responses. There was a few times where I had something to say or I had personal feedback that I could share. But again, this video isn't necessarily about me or even about my dog Aries, who is here with me once again for episode number 2. But it's really about all of us and the community, and that is why this series is titled Inspired Squad. So again, that first video will be linked down below. I do have timestamps for these videos as well, because I do understand that some of the topics we cover are sensitive. Just because they are sensitive to some people does not mean they are sensitive to everybody, and doesn't mean that everybody shouldn't be able to share their voice or their stories or whatever it is that they are going through. So that is why I include timestamps, so it's easy to skip over something that maybe you cannot handle. And also, like I mentioned with the first one, this doesn't have to be just hardships that people are writing in or sharing about. There can also be positives. In the last video, someone mentioned that she was moving in with her boyfriend and how well everything was going. So it can be good things, it can be things that you're struggling with, things you're looking for advice on, even something like what you bought recently and you're loving, what you're drinking or eating recently that you love to make, anything like that. This is just our time to chat with one another. So I hope that you're enjoying the Inspired Squad series, and let's hop into episode number 2. Write in about why she is pro-choice and shared a little bit about her story with choosing to have an abortion. And this comment that came in said, the user who mentioned the shame of having an abortion, mine happened in 2008. Not going to give specifics. I was meant to feel shame for choosing my life over my baby. It was the toughest decision I've ever made. Pro-life supporters really need to understand what it's like for a woman to have an abortion. It's none of anyone's business why I needed one, or even if I just wanted one. The shame that comes from abortion is real and is long lasting in our lives forever. For anyone who has, my heart is with you. There was quite a few responses that came in regarding birth control. So in the first episode, someone mentioned she was having really bad side effects with her birth control and went through that story. So I wanted to include a few different ones in here because I thought this was very interesting. But this first one says, I was a young woman on birth control for acne for 9 years. About 8 months ago, I decided to come off of it. Unfortunately, I didn't do my research and simply cold turkeyed. Only afterwards, when I started noticing the massive backlash to my body from it overcompensating for the now missing hormones, did I learn what a bad idea that was. I've got terrible, painful, cystic acne on my jaw, and absolutely nothing I do is helping. I keep telling myself to wait it out and eventually my body will normalize, but sometimes it feels like I will never get it under control. In addition, I've started to get these surges of intense anxiety and despair on my period, which I've never gotten before. Another response says, "Hi Sam, thank you for doing the first video of this series. It was very eye-opening and inspiring. I think it's going to be a great series and help a lot of women. I wanted to comment on the birth control / knowing our bodies topic you discussed. I was going to leave it as a comment, but I thought it might be too much to write. For many years, I was on Depo-Provera, the birth control shot, as I couldn't take other hormonal medications due to a medication I take. I came off it when I started doing fertility testing and was very surprised it took 6 months for my body to acclimate and have normal cycles, as nobody told me that would be the case. After being off it, I realized a lot of things I had questioned about my body were no longer an issue. I decided to not go back on it, which was scary, but has been a great decision for me. I now use the Natural Cycles app to track my cycle and has made me much more aware of my body and the phases of my cycle, something I was never taught and didn't learn until I was in my late 30s. I also wanted to share a book that I found very educational and helpful in this area called Taking Charge of Your Fertility by Toni Weschler. Thanks, Sam." Thank you. Again, I'm trying not to put pressure on myself, feeling like I need to comment on absolutely anything because it's more community-based, but the amount of comments that I saw on the first video and the comments that were coming in, women saying how confused they are about birth control and just about their bodies in general, and feeling like we don't know so much and we're so undereducated. And that can be so frustrating, especially as I'm someone who's dealt with infertility myself. I look back at all of my years on birth control. I have to wonder, you know, it's really hard. And even now being 35, I feel like I'm just now learning about the complexity of the female body, of what having your cycle really means. It just, the best ways, like the best foods to eat, the workouts, the supplements, all of it, I feel like I'm just now learning this. And it makes me very sad, but it also makes me very hopeful for people going forward that we will have more information and we can have more control over our own bodies. I was very affected by the 2 submissions you read back to back about birth control side effects and medication helping with mental illness. It reminded me of how frustrated I get hearing people give bad advice to others, especially relating to medical issues. People need to seriously consider whether they are sharing their personal experience or giving advice and recommendations. It really can be a fine line, but my solution is that everyone needs to, 1, do the reading for themselves, and 2, ask the questions if they don't understand something. A quick word on why I'm passionate about this. I'm fortunate to be a healthy 42-year-old who has no major issues and takes no meds. However, my brother had cancer at 2. He's in his 20s and okay now, but still has significant issues from years of treatment. I have multiple family members who are diabetic, have dealt with alcoholism, major depression and anxiety, domestic abuse, etc. Big family, long list. I've seen people refuse good advice and take doctor's orders without questioning anything and get bad side effects that legitimately could have been avoided. I've been ignored when I know way more about a specific thing and the other person admits they haven't read up. Somehow you have to make peace with these things. The 2 rules above have helped me keep my perspective when my desire to help someone who is struggling needs to be squared with someone else needing to be the one who decides for themselves. I hope this makes sense. Having a lot of life experience does not equate automatically to knowing what's best for others, but maybe we can show them where and how to look for answers. Well, thanks for listening. It's a nice series idea and I hope it does well. Thank you for sharing that. Someone who, I want to say, like, I enjoy sharing my life experiences, but it's what I've built my entire career on, from the first book that I wrote to the YouTube channel that I started to the podcast that I have. I share my life experiences. One thing fits everything. I'm getting ready to do a video on the elimination diet I did because I was really struggling with bloating, with a lot of gut issues, digestion issues, vomiting. And I'm basically almost like writing a script for myself because I want to make sure that I'm just sharing my story and I'm not telling people, go buy this supplement, go do this, take this out. Because especially something I learned through the elimination diet was how different everyone is, and the bodies are so complex, and what works for someone for digestion might not work for the next person. So you really do have to do your own research, like she said, ask the questions, ask around. I think is really important as well. But just try to be as informed as you can, and also pay attention and listen to your own body. A lot of times our bodies are telling us what we need or what's good for us, what's bad for us, but a lot of times we just ignore it. Like, how many times do you eat a food or a food group and you get sick and you're like, oh no, that's my favorite. It's like, maybe your body's trying to tell you something, or maybe you need a break, or maybe you need a change. but it's gonna be all really specific, so I think that's really good advice. And then that kind of rolls us over to the mental health and the stigma behind not only sharing about mental health problems, but especially what we talked about in the first episode was taking medication for mental health. It says, "Hi squad, this is a reply to the mental health topic from the first video. I wanted to share that I really feel your struggle with people not understanding you being on medication. I struggled with depression throughout my teen and college years and still do as a 25-year-old. But I didn't actually get on medication until I was 19. My parents weren't big on the idea, especially my mom. When I was finally an official adult and depression started inhibiting my ability to finish college, I decided to finally make a doctor's appointment and get on medication. My dad was cool, but when I told my mom, she wasn't happy. She told me that she was depressed when she was younger, but she just got through it. She didn't believe in taking medication for that. I politely told her that I felt like it was necessary for me and that I wanted to try it and see if it helped, and she did drop it. All this to say, if taking antidepressants helps you feel more like yourself, it is worth it. I look back at pictures of me on my 19th birthday before the meds, and I look absolutely exhausted mentally and physically. I look at pictures from my 20th birthday, less than a year of being on meds, and I look like a completely different person and genuinely happy. This is not anyone else's life, and therefore they don't have the right to say that you shouldn't take medication. I know it's really hard to interact with people like that, especially if it's family or close friends, but it gets better. It gets easier to say, I understand that's how you feel, but this is what's helping me right now. I hope you are doing better, and I hope that the medication continues to help you. I think that is such an important line. This is not anyone else's life, and therefore they don't have the right to say that you shouldn't take medication. Agree. For the mental health and stigma prompt, I feel bad saying it, but I feel like there comes a realization when listening to others. You realize that they have never experienced real, true struggles with mental health or life. Anyone who says you shouldn't be on medication that helps you has never experienced what we've gone through. But specifically in regards to mental health, nobody who has struggled with depression or anxiety would ever say that to you. I personally see the ugly side of psychotic illness, through both my own OCD, but also my sister who struggles with schizophrenia and psychotic episodes, and the suicide of my twin brother who was also schizophrenic. Episode 1 about mental health stigma. I'm currently struggling with this. I've been in therapy for almost a year, and I found out I have depression, anxiety, and ADHD. I wasn't surprised by the first two, but the ADHD took me off guard, and I found that the majority of my anxiety my whole life has stemmed from this. I come from a family in medicine and was terrified to even tell them because I had heard all my life how this was overdiagnosed. I'm so glad the original person is taking medicine to help themselves despite what pressures they are feeling. I've yet to go on any medication and I struggle every single day without it. Hearing stories like this, knowing how medicine does make you feel better helps, but it's still hard to actually do when people close to you don't think you need it. But they're not in my head. They don't feel what I feel. Maybe the more stories like this we all hear, the better it will all be for those of us who struggle to make the decisions to help ourselves. Thank you for creating this series. I truly believe it's what so many of us needed without realizing how much we needed it. Thank you for all of those responses. I wanted to include all of those because I felt like the underlying theme in each response was saying, if you do struggle with mental health and you are talking to your problems with someone who has never struggled like that and they're giving you advice of don't take medicine and you'll get through it and just smile, just think. The things that I've been told when I have talked about my depression, they're like, just, you have things to be happy for, just be happy. It's like, it genuinely doesn't work like that. A lot of those are such a good reminder, and it comes down to it being our body, our mental health, our decisions, and doing what is the absolute best for us. Because I know how debilitating mental health problems can be, and you have to take care of yourself first, and to let someone else dictate that part of your life is just not okay. I did have someone in the first video mention about losing their dream job. I did get in a response from someone saying they potentially do have a lead. Since the Google form is anonymous, I'm hoping that first person is also watching this video. If you are, if you would be so kind to, you can put it right in the form and just to let me know that you are the person who did write in, and if you could leave your email, then I could link I could make this connection. So if you are the one who wrote in about losing your dream job in the first video, if you could just enter it in the form and I can make this connection with someone who might have an opportunity, which also, by the way, I think is a really cool thing. So lastly, we're going to finish up with the conversation on teeth. This is definitely what I got the most amount of responses in. I'm going to read quite a few, but there was also a lot of comments on the first video about this. It really showed what a common problem and how detrimental something like teeth can be insurance, the money, all of that. Some of the responses that came in said some states will pay for dentures for individuals that are low income. This person may want to look into that option through their state benefits. Regarding the person experiencing dental issues, maybe they can go to the pharmaceutical company that caused this to happen to her and ask them to cover the cost of her dentures. I'm so sorry this happened to her. It's outrageous that a company would release a product such as the medicine she was on if it came with potential side effects such as losing all your teeth. If she doesn't have any luck appealing to the pharmaceutical company, maybe a GoFundMe or something to that effect. Another one says dental schools will often do work for people at little or low cost to allow their students to work under the observation of dentists. Call a dental school and ask about this as a possible option. This next one says, dear, I hate my teeth. I can sympathize with you on hating your teeth. It slowly happened to me as well, and by the time I was 49, I only had a few teeth left. It was because of a few mental health prescriptions that my teeth started to slowly fall out. Also, I had beautiful teeth. My smile was my trademark and I couldn't smile anymore. My full dental procedures with a full set of dentures cost a whopping $11,000. I was fortunate enough to have the money to cover it, but before I could even write the check, they offered me something called Care Credit. It allows you to get the procedure right away and then pay it off monthly. I would definitely look into that, and if your specific dentist doesn't cover it, I'm certain you can find a dental office that does. The place I used was called Aspen Dental, and I know they're located around the US. Good luck on your smile journey. It was a journey for me, but one I wouldn't trade for anything. If this is read by Samantha, you need any more help, I'd love to help you. I'll give Samantha my socials and my emails and I can help in any way. I just think that's so wonderful. There was so much willingness in the comment section and in the Google form of people really wanting to help out one another. And it's really a reason why I wanted to start this series, especially for it to be focused along women. I've definitely noticed through my time on social media that women are so hard on one another. And then especially when I went through my divorce, I just saw so many negative, brutal comments, and I just think if we worked together, we would be so much stronger. We can help each other so much better, and that's why my tagline for the past several years has been community over competition. It's just something that I really believe. When we work together, when we can educate each other, when we can help, when we can share our experiences, I just think that we go so much farther than just trying to find ways to tear each other down and to argue with one another. None of that will ever make any sense to me. But thank you to everyone who wrote in. Again, the comment section on last week's video there's a plethora of comments there as well. Definitely also another place to look, but I wanted to read some of the responses that came in as well. And then I did want to go over, I'm definitely not gonna be able to get through everything that came in through the first video, but I do wanna read a few here. And again, same thing, if there's anything that you wanna respond to, definitely feel free to leave it in the comment section. But if you don't feel comfortable, you can anonymously put it in the form. I might read it in next month's episode as well. And if there's anything that you wanna write in about, like I mentioned, good, bad, you want advice, you just wanna share a life experience, a story, something really positive as well. I love reading like the good things also, how you overcame something or something good that happened in your life recently. That's fantastic as well. But I'm gonna go through, read some of these. And again, these will all be timestamped in the description box. All right, reading from a few of the new responses that came in. This one says, I've just had what I hope is my last breast cancer surgery. If anyone needs to connect over this topic, I'm more than happy to help share and just discuss. Women's healthcare in the US stinks, so we need to help each other. First of all, congratulations. I hope it is also your last breast cancer surgery. That is amazing. I'm so happy to read this, but agree. I mean, healthcare in the US is not easy, but especially women's healthcare, we especially seem to get just tossed aside or thrown birth control or antidepressants at us and calling it a day. So again, the more that we can talk to each other and share, I think is so important. This next one says, I've been getting cheated on for 4 months earlier this year. I have been in this relationship for 12 years, and I always told myself that if my partner cheated, I would leave without hesitation. Now that I'm actually in this position, I have found that I am not able to leave so easily. I'm not sure if it's a sunk cost fallacy after being in a relationship for so long, or if it's truly because I recognize that people just simply make mistakes. I find I am also caught up in feelings such as fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear of never finding the same kind of happiness again. I'm turning 30 years old soon, and I feel the pressure of finding someone to share my life with. Do I continue with my partner of 12 years and try to make things better? Do I leave the pieces on the floor and move on? My heart is so hurt and split. Thank you for starting this series. Relationship struggles, and especially when it comes to cheating, is never easy. I know that cheating for a lot of people can make the person who is being cheated on feel very unworthy and feel very less than. And I think that is not okay in a relationship. That's just kind of, again, my personal take on it. But when I have friends or family talk to me about cheating, the thing that kind of always goes back to is I'm not enough, I wasn't doing enough, they don't love me enough, I'm not putting in enough. And it kind of always falls back on the person that is being cheated on. And a lot of times they then try to overcompensate, and it just goes down a very slippery path. Now, I obviously don't know the full story behind everything, and it could really be a situation of where the partner really made a mistake, and is it worth it to try to fix and be able to move on? To me, when I read something like, I'm turning 30 and I feel pressure of finding someone to share my life with, I think it's good to make sure that you are going to find someone to share your life with that does make you feel worthy and loved all of the time, not just sometimes, not when you go through bad situations. I do think that's really important, because you definitely don't want to settle or potentially get stuck in a relationship that can be a lot harder to leave in the future. So that's just what I'll say there. I, of course, would love to hear if anyone would like to write in if you've gone through something like that and what you would recommend. I just know it's so different for everybody. You know, I read a lot of books and I see there's a lot of books on cheating, and sometimes the couple does end up getting back together, sometimes they don't. So it just, every relationship and every experience is going to be so different. This next one says, I recently moved into a house I bought together with my sister last year. We are 42 and 40, and we both experienced our fair share of relationships with men. She had various boyfriends over the past 20 years, and I had one for 20 years. We both decided, after he left me in 2020 for a new woman, she has been single for 5 years in 2020, that we don't want any men anymore, but we know that it's hard when you are alone, when you are old. We always got along great, so we set up a plan to buy a house together near our parents because they don't get any younger as well, and we finally found one in December 2021. We moved in this May with our 6 dogs, as she has 4 and I have 2. The house has 2 separate flats, so it's more like a shared apartment / house situation. We both have our own space where we live and work. Our requirement was having 2 separate bathrooms as well. We cook together, eat together sometimes, and sit in our garden together with our dogs, and it is so good. I can finally get myself back together again and start doing more things for me and my health. Thank you for the goal tracker, by the way. It is such a great help to slowly kickstart good habits again. I wish you and everyone all the best. That's wonderful. I love that. That makes me so happy to hear. I love that you talk about having like the separate spaces. I'm very much an introvert. Like, I always need like my own space and my own alone time, but then you can also come together in that time where you want companionship or need companionship, or maybe like truly do need something if you're sick or something like that. I'm so happy that works out for you, and thank you so much for sharing that. I love hearing the good stories too. That make me so happy. This next one says, first, I want to say that I love the series already and how much you strive to actually foster a community amongst your viewers. In regards to what I wanted to share, I guess I just need a confident boost and some reassurance. I'm a 35-year-old single female with no children. I'm typically comfortable with the life I've chosen, which has been career focused, but something happened recently to shake that confidence, and it's been one thing among many that's been affecting my mental health. I recently had to take my mother to a baby shower for another relative, a newfound biological niece, my cousin, who we'd only met once prior to this. She was about to have her first boy. My mother gave her various gifts, one of them being a handmade cloth diaper cover with a really cute duck pattern cross-stitched on it. As we were getting in the car to leave, I asked my mother where she'd gotten the diaper cover, and her response was that she'd made it a long time ago and it was supposed to be for her grandson someday, but it didn't look like that was going to happen, so she wanted to let someone else be able to use it. I didn't know what to say to any of this. She's never hidden the fact that she loves babies and children, but I've never hidden the fact that I'm not really interested in children. I never said I would never have any, but I would want to be in a relationship first amongst other things. Then, in the next breath, she asked if I had friends that I thought would be able to help me when she and my father were gone, because she wanted to make sure I wouldn't be alone and without any support. I said yes, but I was just so shocked at how easily all of that rolled off her tongue in such a casual tone. To this day, I'm sure she has no idea how hurtful that was, to practically rub it in my face that I'm both childless and alone. Like I said before, I'm usually very comfortable with the choices I've made in my life, and I'm secure in the fact that I don't yet have my own family, and that I might never have that. But that day was just a lot to process, and I don't think I've yet processed it fully. I haven't brought it up with her since then, and I haven't been able to bring myself to say anything to my father either. I've only told one friend, and now you, about this since it happened. Thanks for reading. It's been helpful just getting it out. I'm glad that you were able to submit that then, because sometimes it really does help either saying it out loud, even to yourself, or like I'm really big into journaling, or even something like this, typing. Sometimes it can almost help you figure out your feelings a little bit more if you're able to just write it down and kind of get a little bit more clarity about it. But that really breaks my heart because I'm also 35 and I'm now divorced and I don't have any children. And it's so interesting that I feel like we have such a pressure as women that sometimes it seems like we're only here to reproduce, and we could be thriving and living our best lives and successful and happy and traveling or whatever it is that makes us happy and fulfilled. Yet if we don't have kids, there's always that, so do you have kids? Why don't you have kids? Can you have kids? All of these things. But to kind of feel that pressure from your mom has to be such a hard thing. I just can only imagine asking that question and then getting that answer kind of feels like such like cold water being splashed on you. You know, you said that you were looking for maybe some assurance or a confidence boost, but what it sounds like, you said you're typically comfortable with the life you've chosen and you're career focused, but this really is what shook your confidence. And I think it's just so important to remember, like what I said earlier, what makes us happy in life is all that matters. Going back to what we talked about with the mental health and the stigma and other people telling you how you should live your life or the decisions that you make, they cannot make you happy. Only you can really pour into yourself and make the decisions of what is going to be best for you and what's going to be best for your future. And maybe for you up until right now, babies hasn't been the thing. Maybe in the next several years, maybe you'll change your mind and that is what will make you happy. I do just think that it's really important to remember that no one else gets to decide your happiness. No one else gets to decide what it is that you do with your life or where you live or the career that you make or the decisions that you make regarding your own body, your own life, your own financials. No one else gets to choose that. And it's something that I've struggled with myself. I've definitely given other people way too much power over my decisions, and that is something that I really have tried to let go. It's a big reason why I came out with the Unbothered line last year, is this whole concept of living unbothered and not letting other people factor in on the decisions that I make in my own life, because I'm the only one that can bring me this kind of happiness. So it sounds like you're doing really well for yourself, and I'm sure we'll get some responses in because I think that this is a pretty common thing. But just remember that you know what makes you happy and you just have to keep going for it. This next one says, growing up into my 20s, I've always wanted to be a mother. I never imagined not being a mother. It was a literal dream. However, when my husband and I started trying, we found out it wasn't that easy. We both have infertility issues. We weren't in a place financially to explore IVF, and I felt like my dream died. I felt like a part of me died. My story goes so much deeper than money and IVF. I rebuilt my mental health and my self-image as a woman who may never have children and became at peace with this. I'm okay. I don't have to have children to still be me. At 39, we decided we'd finally try, only to be faced with endometriosis, several fibroids, and on top of my already established PCOS. Long story short, I was in pain daily, my uterus dictating my everyday life. At 40, I finally had a hysterectomy, and when I tell you the freedom I finally feel, it's amazing. I am free. I feel brand new and happier than ever. But I'm constantly faced with my cynical comments for not trying for children hard enough or still have options like adoption. I'm happy without children. Why isn't that enough? Why must I be judged? Why should I feel bad being at peace after overcoming some of the darkest moments of my life to get here? Women need to help empower each other, not judge each other for not having offspring. Again, I think this is so important. This is really interesting to me that multiple submissions came in saying something similar along these lines. Women choosing not to have children and being judged from it for others, or feeling self-judgment because we feel that stigma from society so much. And again, I sit here as someone who does not have children, and I understand that. I had those same feelings, those same thoughts, those same feelings. I've had people, especially when I was married to my husband, and people would say, how long have you been married? And I'd say 5 years. Oh, no kids yet though? No kids? Like, I got that all of the time, especially even after just our first year of being married. I got that all of the time. And anytime, you know, my in-laws had a baby, it was always, well, oh, Sam and Mitch are next. And it's like, okay. And then we did go through the fertility treatments, and that didn't work out. And I think women going through something like fertility treatments is so hard on our bodies and on our minds, and then at the same time we're still so hard on ourselves, because again, sometimes it feels like we're just here to be able to have children, and that's like our only value that we have. So when we can't do that, it makes us feel that we don't have that type of value. So I definitely do understand this, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier about choosing your own joy, and especially with something like you were struggling with so many health issues. I can't imagine how freeing and how wonderful it must be to not have that type of pain after getting a hysterectomy. And yes, there are options if you do decide that you want to have children. You know, there's fostering and adoption that you can look into, or surrogacy even. And that doesn't need to be for everybody, and we don't have to explain if we don't want to have children. That shouldn't have to be something that we have to explain, and it's definitely a stigma society has put on us all of these years, and it's very frustrating. But clearly we can see from this, I hope this helps people. If you are out there and you have these same thoughts or you feel these same judgments, I hope this helps realize that we are more than just being a mother, or even something like being a wife. Like, there's more to us than that, and we can be happy and successful even being child-free, and even like the previous submission, even not being married or having a romantic relationship. We can still be happy and fulfilled in our own unique ways, and I think that's really, really beautiful. This next one says, I'm in my early 30s and it's been amazing so far. I've heard this from others too, that when you turn 30 you feel more like yourself, more confident, and ready to take on the world. I feel like this is all true. It makes me sad when friends in their late 20s say that they're scared of turning 30 or not looking forward to it. I feel like as a society we should embrace getting older instead of always trying to prevent it. If you're feeling lost as a young adult, just know it will get better. Getting older is a privilege that not everyone gets. I'm excited to see what the rest of my life holds. I absolutely love the enthusiasm here and the positivity. And you know what? I agree. I've heard so many people say they feel like 30s was like their time and their time to thrive. I've heard people say it about it in their 40s. I look back, because I'm 35 myself, I look back on my 20s and I see a girl who was so unsure of herself, so not confident, so insecure in the choices that I made. I didn't know what I wanted to do fully with my life. I knew that I wasn't happy living where I was, but I felt very stuck. I was not financially stable at all. You know, I couldn't support myself until just a few years ago. I mean, then I look at myself in my 30s and it feels like such an exciting time. I feel more knowledgeable, I feel more educated. You know, I definitely feel like I have more success, which also means more financial stability. I can support myself. I think 30s are fabulous as well. So I know a lot of people, like, I almost feel, this is just me for a second. Does anyone else ever feel like sometimes we just say things because it's so ingrained in us as what we hear in society? Like, people are like, I'm turning 30, but I think there's actually a lot of people that are excited to turn 30. It just feels like that has to be a thing. Or whether you're turning 40 or whether you're turning 50, it always has, especially as women, especially for women, it always has to be, we're getting older, we have to be afraid. We have to be afraid of another year, we have to be afraid of another decade. Why? Why? Like you said, getting older is a privilege that not everyone gets. And now we're wiser and we're smarter, and hopefully we can make better decisions. I mean, we don't always make great decisions, but we don't have to be afraid of our next birthdays. I love that. This one says, hi squad. So I've always been a big city kind of girl. It's where I grew up, New York City. It's where I went to university, San Francisco. And it's where I dream of living. LA, Chicago, new adventure. Moved to the suburbs to complete my master's degree, which was definitely a passion project of mine, and I am incredibly proud of myself. To save money while pursuing this degree, I went to school close to the town where my parents had retired and moved back in with them. I was so excited to graduate in December of 2019, apply for my dream job, and move back to the city. Then we all know what happened in 2020. My dream job fell through, there was a hiring freeze everywhere I tried to apply, and eventually even my part-time job had to let staff go. On top of everything else taking a toll of my mental health, I also felt really lost because I was unable to work in the industry I had spent so much time in and bolstering my education for. It was so hard for me to find work, and I was feeling like I had taken all those school loans out for nothing. At the start of 2021, I was able to start a new job in town. It's not the career I planned on or what I went to school for, but I'm still at this job and really loving it. Finding a workplace with a great culture fit was a big reason why I was able to overcome my fears of ruining my life path, in quotes. I received a promotion earlier this year and I'm really loving my new role. The only con is I want to move. I never saw and I still do not see myself settling in this state, much less this town. I feel like I should be living somewhere that makes me happy, and most of my friends and family, besides my parents, are in the big cities that I left. Moving to a city and state I'd rather be means losing my amazing job. Sometimes I feel like my love of my job is trapping me here. My friends tell me that it's just a job and that there could be something equally fulfilling. I just have to take the chance. I think I'm worried that if my next job doesn't compare, then I'll feel like I made a mistake leaving. That is such a tough one. I hope we get some responses for that one, but it is so hard because I feel like where you live really makes such an impact on your life. And I say that from personal experience. I'm from Iowa and I just never felt like I fit in. I was really similar to this writer where I felt like a bigger city was more for me. And I always felt like I was trying to almost make myself smaller to fit into Iowa, because when I would talk about my dreams and my passions and my goals, a lot of people were like, that's weird. Don't you just want to work a 9 to 5 and get married and have kids and that's it? And I was like, no, I want to do this and I want to travel and I want to write books. And then it came into social media and everyone thought I was so weird for doing social media. And I just always thought, I want something more. I want to live somewhere where I feel more accepted. I'll just share my personal experience here. For me, I've always had this crazy love for Las Vegas since I started reading books about the city before I'd ever even been here. I read the Lucky series by Jackie Collins and I fell in love with this idea of this city with the mobsters and the lights and the casinos and the celebrities that would come in. I was like, wow, this city sounds crazy. And then to actually come here for the first time, I felt some sort of pull to this city that I feel like is very hard to describe. But I've heard other people describe it. I've heard people describe it about New York City. I've heard people describe it about Denver, Colorado. I've heard people describe getting that feeling in cities all over. For me, it's mostly been the US, but in cities all over the US, people go there and they just feel something there and they feel different there. And that is how I felt about Las Vegas. And I feel very much at home here. I feel very accepted here. I just feel excited to live here. And I love it. Now, it was really hard because I had to leave behind family. You know, I was getting a divorce, but I was leaving behind family, friends that I've known for a very long time. That's where I went to college at, and just everything that I knew. I was leaving all of that behind to go somewhere else. But I can just tell I'm so much happier here. I love the weather here. That I think has really helped improve my mental health as well. So for me, it's kind of one of those things, like I never want to tell people what to do, but I feel like if you are in any chance able to travel to places that you think might be a dream city for you, if you get that feeling when you get there, maybe start to make a plan. Like, it took me years to be able to move here. I definitely didn't just do it on a whim, but I'm super happy that I did. So maybe if you find that city that kind of gives you that jolt and that feeling, maybe you'd be able to be like, oh, this is a good place for me. But when it comes to leaving a job and leaving security, that is so hard, because a lot of times a job or a career can also be such a defining moment to us because we work so much, right? No matter if you work a more traditional job or if you're in the entrepreneurial space, jobs are very important. We need them, and a lot of people work a lot of hours. So it's also very scary because you don't want to move somewhere and then hate what it is that you do for a job, because I don't think that's a good balance either. So I definitely feel like this is very tough, and I hope some other people write in. But I feel like this episode is so interesting because I feel like it's all about pursuing your own happiness and really understanding what it is that makes you happy and going after it, no matter what anybody else says. So I kind of love that. That was an inadvertent theme for this month's episode for the Inspired Squad, but I really do love that. So thank you so much to everyone who wrote in for the responses, who wrote in for new topics to cover. Again, if you have anything that you want to respond to, the timestamps are in the description box. If you just leave the timestamp in there or just say which topic that you are responding to, I can read it in next month's. Or if there's anything good, bad, advice that you want to share, life advice, questions you might have, advice you're looking for, anything like that, you can always leave that in the Google form. Or if you feel comfortable commenting as well. Again, I was going through the comments on last month's video so much because it was so inspiring to read how many other women were wanting to help others and create that kind of community feel. That's what this series is all about, is us working together and bettering ourselves together and giving each other the confidence and the inspiration to live our best lives and to be our best selves and to be at our absolute happiness. So thank you so much to everyone who has participated in this series. I will be back next month for another Inspired Squad episode. If you enjoyed this one, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. I hope you also consider subscribing before you go, and I will see you in my next video.